Hi guys, sorry that there's been a delay on the videos. Life kind of happens. So this episode we're actually gonna cram 3 episodes into one, which we can do it. Hang with me. So let's start off with Get Gone, which is all about Laura Moon. This was a really excellent episode for the show expanding on the character of Laura Moon. In the book series, we get bits and pieces of her here and there and kind of her life with Shadow beforehand, but the show is actually going to take its time and develop Laura into more of a character that's deeply flawed, but she's human and technically undead human now, but she's now got a second chance to kind of figure out what she didn't figure out in life. So we see Laura's love story with Shadow, and that is an important part because it's kind of like now what's the driving force for her. Shadow's like a big ball of light for her. That's her purpose coming back. But in this episode, we first kind of get the taste of the fact that, yeah, she really did screw Shadow over, breaking her promise and then cheating on him with Robbie, and we find out that she's the reason that he's actually in jail in the first place. So she's kind of screwed up a lot of things for Shadow, but it's because she's been so aimless in life and apathetic that it's really kind of damaged her mentally. We see her try to actually commit suicide multiple times before Shadow and after Shadow. So despite how much he loves her, he's blinded by that and can't see that she needs more mental help. And I'm wondering if this is something that the show will explore with Shadow being kind of oblivious to things. Now, let's get back to Laura's new afterlife. There had to be one of the most hilarious and disgusting scenes that I've seen on TV in a while, where Laura comes back and her body is now expelling all the embalming fluid, which the best part of this is that she goes to her, this would be her former best friend, Audrey, and of course Audrey's freaked the fuck out because her best friend who's dead is now in her house, and kind of sees this as an opportunity to actually have a talk with Laura and kind of, what the fuck happened? How could you do this? I don't know if it's her way of helping her best friend kind of move on despite everything that's happened. They start off on the road trip together, and then Mr. Ibis and Anubis come and stop the car and take Laura to bring her back to a new life and kind of make her look human again. But what's interesting about this is that Anubis is hardcore about, like, you know what? I fucking hated you before when you were all about, like, I'm not gonna go into my death, like, willingly. I'm not gonna... She was hardcore against it, even though she knew, she's like, I was a bad person in life. And he's like, I'm not gonna remember you. And then she fucking comes back to life, and he's like, well, okay, shit, now I'm gonna remember you. And now it's my new mission to make sure that I'm the one that collects you when you die again. And make sure you go to that hot tub that's sealed with a bug spray. On the other hand, Mr. Ibis is very much more of a better outlook on the situation, and with talking to Laura, he sees that her purpose is to go find Shadow and connect with him. And he's like, well, you know what? Love finds a way kind of deal. But at the end of the episode, she goes to Shadow's hotel room and is there waiting for him when he opens the door and does her signature hi puppy. And he's pretty much, in the next episode, when it starts off, he throws a pill at her to make sure that she's real. Shadow doesn't waste time, and he basically cuts to the shit and says, why the fuck did you sleep with Robbie? Why did you do that? And Laura tells him pretty much the truth about, he was there, and she needed it. But she still loves Shadow, and Shadow's not sure he still loves her. Which makes things extremely awkward when you came back from the dead for your husband. She tells him that despite everything, she wants to work on their marriage. And she goes up and she kisses Shadow. And then we see an animation of her heart actually beating for a second. It kind of pulls into the fact that Shadow is her purpose, obviously. She's just got to figure out how to make that last, because Shadow's not all about working on the marriage. Let me backtrack a bit for this beginning of this second episode that I skipped. We get this really awesome animation scene of people traveling to America over the land bridge, and their god, Nanu Lily, pretty much tells the chiefess she's not going to survive, and this is what she's going to have to do to make sure that her people that she's leading to this new country will. And we see in this animation kind of the first, it's not the first iteration, but the first time that we're seeing the bison that Shadow has seen in his dreams that represents kind of the god of America, the Native American god, and he kills the chiefess. And then after her death, the Native Americans welcome people from her clan into their land. But this is the first instance that we actually see that when these new people come into the country, that Nanu Lily's no longer believed in, and he disintegrates and disappears. So it's kind of given us a taste of what Mr. Wednesday fears, and what maybe some of these other gods kind of fear, but they also kind of accept as their fate. It's only that Mr. Wednesday is the one who's like, no, I will not go quietly into the night. Speaking of Mr. Wednesday, he comes knocking on the door, and Shadow hides Laura because he's not ready to talk about that. And he kind of is like, oh, let's go for a drink. And then a whole bunch of cop cars come and arrest Mr. Wednesday and Shadow for a robbery, which, Mr. Wednesday told Shadow, you're going to be safe, you're not going to get caught, we're fine. They're not the only ones that get taken. Technical Boy gets nabbed by Media, and Media is fucking dressed up as David Bowie. So fucking awesome. And they did an awesome job. The suit, the hair, the makeup, and Gillian Anderson did an amazing impression of David Bowie. But basically, she takes Technical Boy to tell him that Mr. World, who's kind of their boss, he's not happy, and he wants Technical Boy to apologize to Mr. Wednesday and Shadow, which Technical Boy is not all about. He kind of flips out like a petulant little boy. We also find out that because of Technical Boy lynching Shadow, it's really kind of ignited the fire in Mr. Wednesday. So the new gods actually had a chance when Mr. Wednesday was kind of almost starting to accept his fate a little bit and smoldering out, but now Technical Boy pissed him off and he's ready to fight this war. And so back at the police station, Shadow and Mr. Wednesday get interrogated separately. Shadow's cop kind of keeps telling him, she's like, you know what, your boss, he's pissed off some major players. She's like, I don't know who, but I get the idea and I know that feeling. They get tipped off by a freaking fax machine that hasn't been on for years, comes and tells them pretty much everything to the minute detail about where to find them, what they did, what their names are, all that stuff. She's like, that's extremely suspicious. She's like, we wouldn't have caught you any other way. She's like, it's just because of this. But despite kind of all the evidence and information that she's throwing at him, Shadow's still kind of a little bit loyal to Mr. Wednesday and says, you know what, he's like, lawyer, I'm not going to tell you anything. Mr. Wednesday, on the other hand, is playing, his foolish card, but then he actually tells the truth to the cop because he's like, you know what, this guy already thinks I'm crazy. He's not going to believe me, so I'll tell him what I'm doing. I'm recruiting people for a war. And yeah, the cop doesn't believe him. Thrown together, and Shadow's kind of demanding from Mr. Wednesday, like, tell me what's going on. Tell me who you are. Tell me what is the purpose. Who did you piss off? Shootout happens before they can get anything done, and media comes floating in as Marilyn Monroe. And she's, once again, to perfection. She can pretty much imitate anyone, I think. She comes in, and we finally meet Mr. World. He's a slimy guy. Crispin Glover plays it very well. And he tries to be charming, and at first he loses his cool a little bit with Shadow and kind of says, like, we know everything. But then media gets him back on the path. And, the basic concept they're trying to do is saying, Mr. Wednesday, join us. We'll rebrand your image. We'll make people remember you, but in a new way. They kind of try to butter him up. And they even get Technobook Boy to come in and try to apologize to both of them. It's a shitty apology, but he still does it. Mr. Wednesday doesn't fall for the bullshit, and he basically tells them to kind of like fuck off. He likes being the way he is. He gets better with every day, and Technical Boy's like, okay, let's just get rid of them now. They're both handcuffed, like they can't fight us. But Mr. World is like, no, you know what, we're gonna leave. I'm gonna give you the opportunity to think this over, and I really hope that like you can come to my side of these things. They escape the police station, which everyone's dead in, but then there's like this tree monster, and it ends up kind of impaling Shadow at one point, and he has to like rip it out of him, and but they still end up escaping anyway. But someone else that escapes he escapes the police car that's at the station is Mad Sweeney, because during this whole time that Shadow and Mr. Wednesday are at the police station, Mad Sweeney was at the Shadow's hotel room fighting with Laura to get his coin back, and they have this really awesome like knockout battle where he's trying to kind of get the coin out of her, and Laura has this crazy zombie strength, and she beats the shit out of him, and she's also kind of surprised but loves it, because who wouldn't? And she realizes Matt Sweeney has to be given the coin voluntarily. He can't just rip it out of her. But Matt Sweeney, of course, is goading her on and kind of telling her, you know what, your husband doesn't want you anymore, you're dead, your meat's gonna fall off the bone soon, like, you're living on borrowed time, you might as well just stop it now, give me the coin, and I'll get out of your hair. But instead, Laura's, uses this opportunity to be like, tell me what's going on, tell me who Shadow's working for, what situation has he gotten himself into, and she pretty much beats him up for information. And then he beats her up again, and then the cops come, and she plays dead so that he gets arrested. And then she gets taken to the morgue, and we get this another fun scene of where she has to kick herself out of the morgue, and she might have killed the guy accidentally, but oh well. Alright, so last week's episode. See, I told you 3 in 1, we're gonna get this done. It starts with actually the Mexican people trying to cross the border into America. It's obviously not an easy journey while they're traveling at night and kind of scared and looking around them, but this woman's like, you know what, trust me, we'll get there. I will lead you there safely. One of the men starts to drown, but then he gets rescued, and it's actually by none other than, I'm gonna say Mexican Jesus, just because Mr. Wednesday had said before in one of the previous episodes that there's multiple versions of Jesus because of different sects of people believing in a certain type of Jesus. He saves that guy, walks on water, but he ended up not being able to save anyone because the border agents kind of shoot everyone dead, and they even shoot Jesus, who, interestingly, they shoot him kind of stigmata style. Back to Mr. Wednesday and Shadow. Mr. Shadow kind of finally tells Mr. Wednesday about Laura, and he's like, I'm kind of finally starting to believe all this crazy shit that's going on. And Mr. Wednesday's like, doesn't like the idea of Shadow's wife coming back from the dead and possibly distracting his right-hand man. And this is further kind of proven when they get in the car to get back on the road trip, and Mr. Wednesday sees Laura trying to like flag them down from back in the parking lot, and he turns up the music and he just kind of starts talking to Shadow to distract him. So not only is Laura kind of stranded at the motel because her car was taken for evidence because she died, again, she ends up running into another Matt Sweeney who comes back, you know, because he wants that freaking coin. So now he realizes, you know what, I'm going to help you with your purpose, because the sooner you get your purpose taken care of, the sooner you decide to die and I can get my freaking gold lucky coin back. They try to steal a taxi, and the taxi belongs to none other than Salim. So once again, we're getting a more expanded character storyline for someone in the books who didn't really have much going on. Like I said, Salim only kind of shows up once in the books, I believe, and now we're kind of seeing that he's gonna get to do more, which is awesome. Salim overheard them talking, and you know, Matt Sweeney's a leprechaun, Laura's a dead person. He hears them name drop Jesus, and he's just like, you know what, I'm looking for a djinn. Do you know where to find one? How, like, what to do? So Matt Sweeney's kind of like, oh God, like, fine, like, come on this journey with us. I will take you to her djinn. I will take her to her purpose. I will help you freaking guys so that I can get what I want faster. So we get this unexpected kind of other road trip story of a leprechaun, a dead woman, and a lovelorn taxi driver, I guess. In the other car, Shadow is kind of finally reveals to Mr. Wednesday, like, he's profusely bleeding. The tree kind of effed him up. So they pull over, and Mr. Wednesday's like, all right, like, I can help you with this. Not gonna be pretty. They stop down by the headlights of the car, and Mr. Wednesday kind of like coaxes out the roots from the tree, which have embedded itself into a Shadow. So he rips it out and just throws it across, and it's really nasty. It's kind of very alien looking. And then Shadow kind of finally gets to start to heal a little bit from this. So they arrived at Vulcan, Virginia, which is very heavy on the Second Amendment to bear arms. We first see in a factory a boss kind of has an accident. He falls into the vat of molten metal, and that's kind of like a sacrifice to Vulcan. That's who they're there to see, is actually the god of Vulcan. And for the first time, we actually see a god that's ready to jump on board with Mr. Wednesday, because obviously this guy loves to fight. He loves war. He might like death a little more than Zernabog. So he used to be all about forging weapons, but now it's kind of America's all about guns, and he's rolled with those tides. No surprise, but the town of Vulcan, Virginia is pretty damn white and racist, which, you know, kind of what would you expect from a hick town? And Shadow's very nervous about being there, being around Vulcan. You know, he says, you know, to Mr. Wednesday, like, you actually trust this guy? Like, ugh. Like, I liked everyone else we've met so far. This guy, no, I have a bad feeling about. And then Mr. Wednesday asks, you know, can you make me a blade to fight with? And Vulcan's like, F yeah, I'll do that. Let's go do this now. So they all end up at Vulcan's factory, and he makes the sword for Mr. Wednesday, polished to perfection, and then Mr. Wednesday kind of calls Vulcan out and says, you know what, he's like, the new gods already got to you. Like, the guns, that's your rebranding, what they kind of want to do to me. And Vulcan, I have to, despite him being scary, I have to give him credit for kind of being honest, because he's like, yeah, I love it. Yeah, I'm with the new gods. Like, yeah, whatever. He can do anything to kind of convince Mr. Wednesday or do something to help the new gods. Mr. Wednesday freaking picks up the sword that Vulcan just made for him and slices Vulcan's head off. Like, shadows in the background, like, what? What the fuck? Like, out of everything you see, he's still like, this guy just got decapitated in front of me. And then Mr. Wednesday kicks Vulcan's body into the molten vat of molten metal down below. And then, of course, Shadow's just like, like, oh god, oh god, oh god. And Mr. Wednesday's all like, whatever, he fucking screwed me. He screwed all of us old gods. And then he goes and, to lay a little bit of a curse, he goes and pees into the vat of molten metal so that, you know, I guess any gun or any bullets made from that vat would have some of Mr. Wednesday's pee and either miss their mark or F up the gun. I don't know, but whatever. It's still kind of one hell of a scene, and you're just like, what? It's also the first time we kind of see Mr. Wednesday take some physical action, because he's very much a man of words up until this point. But I mean, he's fucking Odin, so he is a god of war. So we shouldn't have expected him to kind of sit back all the time. But the show ends not on that note, but actually of our other road tripping trio. And they pull off to the side where they pull off to the side and Salim is praying. So in a weird way, they both kind of respect this, because I guess Mansweeney, you know, as a god, he understands the importance of praying. So he's okay with this, despite, you know, being annoyed by being dragged down by these two characters. He's okay with this. And Laura is more kind of contemplative of it, because she's trying to understand life, and, you know, she's gone through apathy. She's seen what happens when she died, so I think it's more of a moment of her to kind of reflect and take it in. And I've skipped over this part earlier, but Laura kind of diverted them back to the crocodile bar, where they end up sitting and drinking, kind of getting to know each other a little bit, despite, you know, Matt Sweeney wanting to get the show on the road. And they're a very interesting group to see together, that's for sure. I have to say it's kind of weird, because it's like Lara, whose purpose is Shadow, there's kind of like this weird, like, almost sexual tension now with Matt Sweeney, who is this character that's come into her life, and he's kind of questioning every move she makes, and it's, you know, it's pissing her off, because she's like, no, Shadow, 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 but he's kind of helping her to slowly realize that maybe her life had more purpose besides just Shadow, and she needs to realize that, because he tells her, he's like, you know, Shadow's not your man anymore, he's Mr. Wednesday. And he kind of blows off, you know, he tried to give rough advice to Salim as well, and says, you know, your Jinn is gone. You know, you guys had a lovely night together, but that's it. Like, you need to move on too. But Laura kind of jumps in, and she's like, you know what? Fuck everyone. Fuck all those people. She's like, you do what you want to do. We'll go find your Jinn. We'll go for my thing. Like, we'll do this. And I'm kind of excited to see where their road trip goes. We only have a few more episodes left. And I'm really hoping these guys kind of tough it out, because I'm a little nervous. Once again, hopefully I'll be back next week. I didn't mean to have this big gap in between episodes. I'm sorry. And come back for the next episode. Believe with me. Once again, you can find us on allgeektomenet.net. Twitter's allgeektomenet. My personal one is @storyintheend. And let's talk American Gods.